Chapter 18. The Earth Before They Left. 5 days. 5 days had passed since the man with countless cuts across his body had been found on the floor, the blood dark and barely visible against the black tunic, and since then no one had officially spoken about it. Laura woke to the soft hum of the air conditioning. No loudspeaker with an announcement this morning. Just the steady drone of the air conditioner that had begun to feel like the blood flow of the ship, as if it was a gigantic living creature and the people in there some tiny parasites. She remained lying there for a moment, staring at the ceiling. 5 days. Beside her, Elspeth stirred in her sleep and murmured something unintelligible. Over the past few nights she had crawled into Laura's beds while Joelle slept in hers. Laura brushed a strand of hair from Elspeth's forehead. For a brief moment she wished she could turn around and find Jared lying behind her, breathing calmly, telling her that it wasn't all that bad, but there was only emptiness. "Time to get up, little mouse," she said softly. Laura slept through the nights full of tension. The heart should be light now that she was on the ship, but it was not. They got out of bed, got dressed, and went to the breakfast hall. The breakfast hall was quieter than it had been in the beginning. The long white tables stood exactly as they had on the first day, but something had shifted. Laura glanced around. Where was the smell of fresh bread? The tables no longer held overflowing baskets or trays of food. Instead, at the far end of the room, members of the ship staffs were handing out portions. "Please form a single line," one of the attendants said without a smile. The people entering the hall picked up trays and joined the queue. Laura did the same. In front of her, names were checked against the list. The man with the list nodded briefly, then the person next to him gave out a portion. Laura guided Elspeth and Joelle ahead of her into the line. Luckily, the hall was still nearly empty, and they were among the first. When it was their turn, the man glanced at his clipboard. For a moment Laura thought she noticed a hesitation, but perhaps it was only her exhaustion and her previous experiences making her sensitive to the behavior of the people around her. She pushed the thought aside. "Number 48, he said at last, placing a plate in front of her. Half a piece of bread with a tiny piece of cheese and half an egg. Elspeth and Joelle received the same. Irritated, Laura looked up from her plate and nudged the children towards one of the tables. How were they supposed to stay full until noon with this small portion? She pretended to eat, but her gaze drifted across the hall, watching carefully, assessing. Behind her, a sharp voice cut through the quiet. "Higher numbers first!" Laura turned. At the table behind her sat the group with the short-haired woman again, the ones who loudly insisted every time that they were here by blood. The anger rising in Laura's stomach flared into something fierce and unquenchable when she saw that the portions on their plates were twice the size of hers. Irritated, she looked around. Others were comparing their plates too. Everyone saw it, and yet, instead of an outcry, the room remained silent. "Why do some get so much food while others get so little?" she called out to the attendant. Heads turned throughout the hall, and conversations died mid-sentence. The man at the serving station looked up, annoyed. "The rations have been adjusted." "Adjusted to what?" Laura rose to her feet and stepped closer. "We are all registered. There are fixed numbers." A low murmur ripped through the room. "The rations had been reduced," he replied stiffly. "Otherwise the supplies won't last until we arrive. Distribution is based on prioritization." "Prioritization?" Her voice cracked with anger. "What does that mean?" Another staff member stepped up to him. "Please return to your seat and eat." "No," Laura said. "I want to understand why some people receive double portions while others don't even get enough to feed a child." Silence. The man resumed serving, pressing a plate into the next passenger's hand. Then a voice came from one of the tables behind her. "Perhaps because some of us have contributed more." It was the blonde woman. Laura turned, her brows drawn tight. "Contributed? We were all brought here." "Not in the same way." The woman took a calm sip from her cup. "Some of us went through a selection process. Others were simply fortunate." A few quiet murmurs of agreement spread across the room. Laura's hands began to tremble uncontrollably. The attendant cleared his throat. Resources are limited. This is only a temporary measure. That's unfair, Laura burst out and immediately hated how childish it sounded. Who decides something like that? The man did not answer at once. Return to your seat, or we will call security. Laura felt Elspeth's frightening gaze on her. Her eyes swept across the room. The faces that had been fixed on her moments before now turned away one by one, whenever her gaze met theirs. No one stood with her. The attendant gave a subtle nod towards the entrance. A soldier stepped forward, striding toward her with deliberate steps. He stopped directly in front of her and met her eyes with a piercing stare. Please return to your seat, he said quietly. I do not wish to place you under arrest. Believe me, it isn't worth it. Laura hesitated. Her hands were still shaking. Then she turned and walked quickly out of the hall. As soon as the door closed behind her, she started to breathe heavily. Breathless, she reached the deck and gripped the railing. The cold wind that lashed against her face made her ground, and her breath became more steady again. What the hell was that? She was about to turn back when she heard heavy footsteps on the deck below. Leaning over the railing, she caught sight of the sleeve of a black uniform, a soldier walking along the lower level. He stopped at the railing. Beside him stood a woman with her hair pinned up, her face narrow and severe. Do you know anything more by now? The woman asked. About a few days ago. What exactly do you mean? Laura went still, then leaned a little further over the railing. The man. A brief silence, then shrug. A tragic incident. Incident? He was stabbed. People on the ship are getting restless. Those are just rumors, the soldier replied evenly. And rumors don't help anyone. We should focus on what lies ahead. That's why we're here. But many people saw the body. They are asking what happened. And what if someone were dangerous, measures would already have been taken. He turned towards the woman. Laura saw the way his posture stiffened. We are not without control here, he continued. There's no need to make a spectacle out of every minor matter. Soon enough, new developments will draw the passengers' attention. He paused. Some things resolve themselves. His head tilted upwards suddenly. Laura recalled just in time, dropping down and pressed her back against the cold metal of the railing. He hadn't seen her. She remained where she was, knees pulled to her chest, her palms pressed flat against the floor, and her heart pounding violently. The soldier's and the woman's footsteps slowly faded. Then she remembered. Damn, Elspeth and Joel. She had simply left them sitting there in her rage. They were probably finished eating by now. Laura pushed herself up and brushed off her trousers. When she reached the breakfast hall and the doors slid open, it was more crowded than before. She pushed her way through clattering trays and weaving bodies towards the table where they had been sitting. But someone else now occupied the places where Elspeth and Joel had been. Have you seen a little girl with brown hair, about this tall? Laura asked the people at the table. They shook their heads and returned to their food immediately. A flicker of irritation crossed her face. Had she chosen the wrong table? Her gaze drifted over the hats, over black tunics, over hands breaking bread, setting down cups, lifting them again, eating, drinking, chewing. But no matter where she looked, she could not see them. At first she decided to go straight back to their quarters. When they weren't there either, she headed for the deck, to the spot where she had seen them playing before. No, not like that, she heard Joel say, as she turned the corner, and relief flooded through her. Yes, Elspeth insisted loudly. It's more fun this way. Something hit the floor. Now he's dead, Joel said. Laura slowed her steps. The two of them were playing with a doll lying on the ground. A broken piece of plastic rested beside it. What are you doing here? She asked. Playing, Elspeth replied. I've been looking for you. I'm sorry I just walked off earlier. I was worried for you. She sat down on the edge of a crate beside them. What are you playing? She asked. Hospital, Elspeth said. Joel picked up the plastic shard. You have to press here, she explained, pointing at the doll. Otherwise she'll keep moving. How do you know that? That's what people say. Which people? Joel shrugged. And what's that? Laura asked, nodding towards the plastic piece. A knife, Elspeth said proudly, as though she had discovered something important. Joel took it in her hand. Not real, she added. Just pretend. Laura took the plastic shard from her. Don't play with things like that. There it was again, that pulling sensation in her stomach, a growing suspicion settling over her like a second skin. Elspeth pulled the door closer. The woman said some people don't belong here. They said, we're just lucky, and luck isn't fair. And if they don't belong here, Joel continued, then... She didn't finish the sentence. Laura stood. We all belong here. Don't listen to those people. She took Elspeth and Joel by the hand, and together they climbed the stairs.